My wedding album is now the coaster for my son's coffee mug. Look, my brother, my sister, I'm Vincent. I'm 76 years old, and for the last decade, I've been doing something peculiar. I've been mapping the silent loneliness of people like us. Not with charts or graphs, but with conversations, observations, and the quiet confessions shared over lukewarm tea in living rooms that smell faintly of dust and forgotten potential. What I've found, what every single person I've spoken with has eventually admitted, is a brutal, unspoken truth. There is a tacit agreement among the elderly: pretend everything is fine. Smile, nod, talk about the weather, ask about the grandkids, but for God's sake, don't scare the young with the truth of what it means to be truly old, truly invisible, truly unmoored. And the greatest crime we commit against ourselves, the most profound betrayal, is believing it's too late to change that. Believing that this quiet disappearance is simply the natural order of things. Well, I'm here to tell you, with every fiber of my being, it is not. I will show you how to turn that biggest regret, that ache in your soul, into a story that will not only set you free but will force those around you to finally, truly see you again. The enemy isn't just their ignorance, or their modern rush, it's our own resignation. It's the tyranny of toxic positivity that demands we be happy grandpa or cheerful grandma, denying the very real pain, the profound grief for the life that wasn't lived, the words that were never spoken. The enemy, my friends, is the myth that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, a myth that has become our cage, our silent prison. You know the feeling, don't you? You're at a family gathering. The noise is a comfortable hum, a backdrop to their lives. The living room is full. Grandkids are huddled over their phones, thumbs flying across glowing screens, their world a million miles away, a world you barely recognize. Your children, they're talking about their work, their mortgages, their next vacation. Important things, to them. You try to join in. You clear your throat, a little too loud. You begin a story, something from your past, something that feels relevant, a lesson learned, a moment of joy or sorrow that shaped you. You start, reminds me of when. And their eyes, they flick to you. They smile. A polite, practiced smile. Their lips move, that's nice, grandpa, or oh, really, grandma? And then, in 3 seconds flat, their eyes have drifted back to their phones, to each other, to the urgent, immediate, sparkling present. Your voice, it just trails off. You weren't heard. You were processed. Like a piece of data, quickly scanned, filed away, deemed non-essential. The conversation rushes back to their problems, their futures. You feel it, don't you? That slow, cold emptiness blooming in your chest. It's not anger, not really. It's a deeper kind of sorrow. It's the feeling of becoming part of the scenery again. An affectionate piece of furniture. Present, yes. But no longer truly there. Your story, your life, it just hangs in the air, unheard, unacknowledged, like a ghost nobody has the time to see. You nod, you smile back, you shrink a little, confirming their unspoken assumption: yes, I am just a benign presence, don't mind me. You were there, but you weren't heard. You exist, but you don't matter. Not in the way you used to. Not in the way you desperately, quietly, still yearn to. And then there's the mirror. Oh, the mirror, at 5 a.m. Insomnia, a cruel companion, drags you out of bed. The house is still, wrapped in a blanket of silence so thick it feels like a physical weight. You shuffle into the bathroom, flick on the faint light. And there it is. Your face. Familiar, yes. But also profoundly strange. The lines, deeper than you remember from yesterday. The skin, a map of battles fought, joys experienced, sorrows endured. You reach out a hand, your fingers, a little gnarled, a little stiff, touch the cool glass. And then, you touch your own face. The physical memory isn't of old age, not really. It's something else entirely. It's the ghost of a touch from a past love, the brush of a hand against your cheek when you were vibrant, limitless. It's the memory of the sun on your face, the wind in your hair, on an open road, 30 years old, invincible. You stand there, looking, really looking, and the question that comes, it isn't who am I? Oh no, that's too simple. The question that pierces through the silence, through the fog of early morning, is different, heavier. It's, where is the person I was? You search the faded eyes, the drooping mouth, for some spark, some echo of that younger self, that person who had dreams, who fell in love, who made plans, who was going somewhere. And the silence of the house is the only answer. A silence that hums with the unspoken grief for the person you were, the life that was, the choices made, the roads not taken. You whisper a name, perhaps your own, or the name of someone long gone, and it feels like a secret, a plea, a ghost calling out to another ghost. You feel the weight of regrets, not just as memories, but as a physical presence, a constant companion. The trip not taken, the word left unsaid, the love unrequited. They are not in the past, they are here, now, staring back at you from the depths of those tired eyes. And then, the quiet indignity. The casual dismissal, dressed up as help. You're at the doctor's office. You've made decisions that changed lives. You've raised children, built careers, navigated the labyrinth of adulthood with grace and competence. You hold degrees, you've paid taxes, you've contributed. You approach the reception desk, and a young person, probably half your age, looks up. Their voice is slow, deliberate, unnervingly loud. Has your AP point meant AR arrived? They ask, as if you're a foreign tourist who just landed from another planet, as if your hearing is gone, your comprehension completely shot. They are speaking to you like a child, with cognitive difficulties, a patronizing kindness that stings more than outright rudeness. You hear it, don't you? That subtle shift in their tone. That assumption of your diminished capacity. You want to snap back, to unleash the fury of a lifetime of wisdom, to show them the sharpness of your mind. But you don't. You can't. You answer, yes, it has, and even to your own ears, your voice sounds small, meek, apologetic. Your dignity, it takes a low blow. A quiet, humiliating punch, disguised as consideration. You feel your shoulders slump, just a fraction. You feel yourself retreating, becoming smaller, less. And you walk away, the sound of that over-enunciated question echoing in your ears, a constant reminder of how the world, sometimes, sees you now. Not as a complex, experienced individual, but as a category. An elderly person. A project. A burden. You're not angry, you're just tired. Tired of fighting for your right to be treated as a fully capable, intelligent adult. Tired of that fight when you just came in for a blood pressure check. You're nodding, aren't you? You're recognizing these moments, these silent wounds, because they are your moments too. They are the universal language of aging in a world that doesn't know how to handle its elders. This isn't just about a few isolated incidents. This is the air we breathe. This is the subtle, pervasive culture that discards the elderly, that pushes us to the sidelines, that has no time for the nuance, the richness, the profound depth of our accumulated experience. It's the modern rush, the relentless pursuit of the new, the next, the immediate, that leaves no room for the quiet wisdom that only time can impart. It's the fallacy that old people can't learn new things, a lie designed to keep us docile, contained, and out of the way. They tell us our memories are just nostalgia, our stories are just anecdotes, our wisdom is just old-fashioned. And the worst part? We comply. We stay silent. We believe the role they've given us. We retreat into the happy grandpa or cheerful grandma narrative, even when our insides are screaming with loneliness, regret, and the fear of not mattering at all. But I'm here to tell you something else. Something they don't want you to know. Something that cuts through that silence. Studies, real scientific studies, show that the aging brain doesn't shrivel up and die. It craves novelty. It thrives on deep connection. It hungers for meaning, not childish pastimes. It wants to learn, to contribute, to engage. And listen to this, I've interviewed dozens of centenarians, men and women who have seen a century of life, and their greatest lament is never money. Never. It's always love unexpressed, adventure avoided, a talent left dormant, a word left unsaid. It's the weight of what they didn't do, what they didn't say, who they didn't become. It's the regret that gnaws at them, the truth they couldn't share. And that, my friends, is where our common enemy truly lies, in our capitulation, in our silence, in our belief that it's too late. I'm Vincent. And I'm just like you. I spent years observing this quiet fade, this social invisibility, in myself and in my friends. I saw us, like spectral figures, moving through the periphery of younger lives, our stories stuck in our throats. I caught myself saying it, one day, as I looked at a brochure for a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try. No, let it go, Vincent. It's past my time. And in that moment, I realized I had internalized the social death sentence. I had accepted the role, the quiet exit. But something inside me snapped. A deep, primal urge to reclaim my narrative, my voice, my place. It wasn't about becoming young again. It was about becoming present again. It started small. I wrote a letter to a woman I loved 50 years ago, a letter I never sent, confessing all the things I couldn't say then. The weight, even without sending it, lessened. It wasn't magic, it was permission. Permission to acknowledge my own truth, my own regret. And that was my rupture. That was the moment I became a silent protocol breaker. I learned to force a new kind of conversation, not just for me, but for others. To reclaim my space, not just physically, but emotionally. To turn memory into something active, something potent, not just a dusty artifact of nostalgia. John, 82 years old, after using this simple technique I'm talking about, told me, and I quote, "It was the first time, after my wife died, that I felt I still had something to say worth hearing." Can you imagine that? 8 decades of living, and he finally felt truly heard again. That's the power we're talking about. Tonight, I want you to start breaking your own silent protocols. I want you to rebel. Not against others, not yet. But against the voice inside your head that tells you your time is over. The voice that echoes the world's dismissiveness. Because the truth is, your time is not over. Your story is not finished. Your wisdom, your pain, your beauty, it all matters. It matters more than you can possibly imagine. In just a moment, I am going to reveal to you the exact way to tell a story to a distracted grandchild that will make them put down their phone and pay attention, truly pay attention, for the first time in years. This isn't about manipulation. This is about reconnection. This is about giving your story the power it deserves. This is about stopping the slow fade. This is your act of rebellion. And it starts now. What you've experienced, what you're still experiencing, isn't just bad luck, or the inevitable march of time, or some failing on your part. It is the predictable, systemic outcome of what I've come to call the architecture of geriatric invisibility. It's a structure built, brick, by a society obsessed with youth, progress, and immediate gratification, a structure that effectively pushes its elders into the shadows. You aren't just getting older, you are being quietly, efficiently, and often benevolently erased. This isn't random. It's the result of a silent script of social redundancy, played out in countless micro-dismissals that feel like death by 1,000 gentle cuts. Now see the social mechanics. This isn't just about rudeness, this is about implicit age bias as a conditioned reflex of a youth-obsessed society. It's deeply ingrained, an automatic assumption that the older you get, the less you have to offer, the less relevant your experiences become. The world, in its rush, doesn't even realize it's committing a profound act of systemic narrative gaslighting, where your lived reality, your deep well of wisdom and sorrow, is replaced by a comfortable fiction for others, the happy grandpa or cheerful grandma who needs nothing more than a warm cup of tea in a quiet corner. They need you to be uncomplicated, because their world is already too complicated. And your rich, messy, potent truth? It's simply inconvenient. This isn't just personal neglect. It's a societal pattern. We can give names to these social threats, these invisible forces that bind us. There is the silent permission of familial neglect, where families, unintentionally or not, accept the diminished role for their elders because it's easier, because they're busy, because they don't know any other way. There is the bureaucracy of polite disregard, the doctor's office experience, the customer service call, the quiet sidelining in institutional settings, all masked by an infuriating, condescending smile. And then, most insidious of all, there is the myth of the peacefully retired, the notion that once you've stopped working, stopped raising children, stopped directly contributing to the economic engine, your life's purpose has somehow been fulfilled, and all that's left is quiet contentment. This myth denies the very human need for ongoing meaning, for connection, for continuing contribution. It's a beautifully wrapped lie that keeps us docile, grateful for small mercies, while our souls yearn for more. This is the key to the irrelevance trap. Understand this engine of dismissal. You've probably been told, by well-meaning friends or even by the inner voice that echoes society's expectations, to just find a hobby, to keep busy. Just keep busy, they say. Find something to do. This is emotional pain management with band-aids. It's the equivalent of telling someone with a gaping wound to just put a colorful sticker over it. A hobby fills time, yes, it occupies the hours, but it doesn't fill the void where your purpose used to be, where your significance once resided. It's turning down the volume on your soul's cry for meaning while the cancer of insignificance keeps growing inside you. It gives the illusion of engagement, but often leaves you feeling even emptier, because you're expending energy without truly connecting, without truly mattering in the way you crave. Ask anyone who has spent years staying busy with crafts or puzzles if the quiet hours of the night are peaceful or if they are haunted by the question, did my life truly matter today? Am I truly seen? The answer, far too often, is a silent, aching no. Then there's the pervasive, insidious advice, it's just aging, be positive. Oh, the saccharine poison of that phrase. This isn't positivity, it's a form of spiritual violence against the elderly. It exhausts you, forcing a smile while a part of you is screaming inside that this isn't living, this is waiting. Waiting for what? For the next doctor's appointment? For another lonely evening? For the end? True peace comes from confronting the truth, from acknowledging the pain, not from painting over it with cheap optimism. This toxic positivity denies your very real grief, your very real anger, your very real regret. It tells you that if you're not perpetually cheerful, there's something wrong with you, when in fact, your honest emotions are the most human, the most valid part of you. It's a command to perform, to put on a show for the comfort of others, at the immense cost of your own authenticity. And what about rely on your family? This sounds so warm, so comforting, doesn't it? But for many, it becomes a recipe for resentful dependency. It may give you company, it may even provide necessary care, but it can sever the last threads of your autonomy and dignity, making you a guest in a life you built, in a home you cultivated. You become the one who needs, rather than the one who contributes. Your children, already burdened by their own lives, their own mortgages, their own worries, may offer help out of love, but that help can sometimes be given with a subtle, unspoken impatience. The dynamic shifts from equal relationship to caregiver and care receiver. Love shouldn't feel like charity. It strips away the power dynamic you once held, subtly turning you into another item on their already overflowing to-do list, leaving you grateful but diminished, appreciated but not truly seen as the powerful individual you still are. Finally, the most insidious advice of all, just accept it, or it is what it is. This, my friends, is a mandate for surrender disguised as wisdom. Acceptance is for things you cannot change, like the weather or the passage of time. But your voice, your story, your need to be seen, your desire to contribute, these are not things to accept losing. These are vital, primal human needs. This phrase, it is what it is the grease that keeps the machine of your marginalization running quietly. It's the silent instruction to cease fighting, to fade gracefully, to make no waves, to make your quiet disappearance as comfortable as possible for everyone else. It tells you to be a good elder, which in our society often means a silent elder, an invisible elder. But what if what it is not what it has to be? What if what it is a lie you've been told your entire life? My journey to understanding all this, to mapping this landscape of geriatric invisibility, began not with a grand epiphany, but with a quiet, persistent ache in my soul, much like yours. It sharpened into focus as I dove into the often ignored work of early gerontologists and social psychologists from the 70s and 80s. These pioneering researchers, decades ago, began mapping the psychic violence of role loss, the stripping away of worker, parent, provider identities that left so many elders adrift. Their findings, deeply compassionate and clinically rigorous, demonstrated the profound psychological toll of losing these core identities, yet their work was largely ignored by a culture screaming eternal youth and chasing the next big thing. They understood the deep human need for meaning beyond economic contribution, a truth our society decided was inconvenient. I unearthed suppressed longitudinal studies on what they termed biographical suffering, the physical and mental toll of having your life narrative deemed irrelevant. These weren't just academic exercises, they were urgent warnings about the profound depression, anxiety, and even cognitive decline that can result when a person's life story, their accumulated wisdom, is no longer valued or sought out. They found that the act of sharing one's life story, of having it received and honored, was not merely nostalgic, but a vital component of ongoing mental health and well-being. And then, I turned to ancient wisdom, to the strategies of elder integration and wisdom transmission preserved in traditional societies across the globe. Societies that understood that a community that silences its elders is a community that has severed its own roots and is destined to wither. They didn't just respect their elders, they relied on them. They actively sought out their stories, their counsel, their warnings, their blessings. These societies knew, instinctively, what modern society has forgotten, that the deepest well of human experience is found not in the new, but in the old. What I pieced together from these threads, from these forgotten studies and ancient practices, from my own observations and those quiet confessions over lukewarm tea, is a powerful new understanding. It's what I call the narrative reclamation protocol. This isn't just a technique, it's a revolutionary approach to aging, a cognitive armor against irrelevance. It teaches you to see the invisible social wires that have pulled you to the sidelines, the subtle mechanisms of dismissal that have systematically rendered you invisible. It disarms the internalized trap of "my time is over" before it snaps shut on your remaining years. It transforms the feeling of being forgotten into a readable page from society's manual on how to discard people, allowing you to not just understand the problem, but to dismantle it, one powerful story at a time. It's a method for not just telling your story, but for making it so utterly compelling, so undeniably relevant, that those around you are forced to listen, to engage, to see you again. Imagine this: you reclaim your life's narrative. You sit with a grandchild, perhaps one of those distant, phone-obsessed figures I described earlier. Instead of telling the same safe anecdote, the one they've heard 100 times, you share a real, messy story from your youth. Not just a success, but a failure, a fear, a reckless joy, a moment of profound doubt or illicit thrill you've never dared to speak of. You speak of the fear you felt, the uncertainty, the moral dilemma, the feeling of utter confusion that parallels something they might be feeling right now. And you watch their eyes widen as they meet the real you, not the grandparent character, but the flawed, courageous, deeply human being you have always been. You see the phone slowly, instinctively, lowered, then perhaps set aside. For the first time, they aren't just hearing a story, they are connecting with a piece of your soul, recognizing a shared humanity that transcends generations, realizing that their own struggles are not new, but part of a timeless human condition you intimately understand. Now, imagine breaking the cycle of silent suffering for yourself. You wake up and instead of following the empty script of the day, the quiet routine, the lonely coffee, the television drone, you perform one deliberate act of non-compliant presence. You call someone, not to complain, not to ask for help, but to say, "I need to tell you something I've never said." You might call a sibling and recall a forgotten incident from childhood, an embarrassment, a moment of unexpected kindness that changed your perspective. You might reach out to an old friend you've lost touch with and share a secret regret about a path not taken, a word not spoken. It's a small, brave act, but in that sharing, in that intentional vulnerability, you feel the burden lift. You feel the deep satisfaction of acknowledging your own truth, your own rich, complicated history, and in doing so, you reclaim a piece of yourself that society had tried to bury. It's an act of defiance, an affirmation of your continued worth, and a potent antidote to the emotional neglect that has been poisoning your spirit. And finally, imagine transforming that deep, gnawing loneliness into an unshakable authority. You look in the mirror again, perhaps at 5 a.m., but this time, you no longer see a fading person, a ghost of your former self. You see a living archive, a specialist in a century you helped shape. Your wrinkles are not just signs of age, they are the topography of a map others desperately need to navigate their own future. Each line, each scar, each memory etched into your being is a testament to experience, to wisdom hard-won, to resilience forged in the fires of life. You realize that your unique perspective, your deep understanding of human nature, your witness to monumental shifts in history, makes you an invaluable resource, a living connection to a past that informs the present. You are no longer just an elderly person, you are a sage, a historian, a storyteller whose narrative holds keys to understanding the world. You reclaim sovereignty over your own story in your remaining time, understanding that your remaining years are not merely a slow decline, but a powerful opportunity to impart profound wisdom, to leave an indelible mark. This internal shift, this transformation, is not just about feeling better, it's about becoming truly powerful again. This knowledge, this narrative reclamation protocol, is dangerous. Dangerous to the status quo of comfortable neglect. Dangerous to the assumption that the elderly are meant to fade quietly. Dangerous to the idea that your best years are behind you. And because of that, it is incredibly potent. It is the key to unlocking not just your voice, but your very presence in the world. When your time comes, and it comes for us all, the difference won't be in the years you had, but in the ownership you claimed over the story of those years in the final chapter. I am now going to reveal to you the very first practical step to disarm the invisibility trap, a simple yet profound action you can take right now, today, to begin reclaiming your narrative, to begin forcing the world to truly see you again. But this specific, actionable first step, I will only share with those who are truly ready to rebel, who are ready to stop accepting the quiet fade. And so, the profound awareness of this psychological architecture, of the silent structures that have shaped your perceived invisibility, now opens a crucial door. Because understanding, while powerful, is only the first breath. It's the realization that you've been navigating a maze you didn't know existed. But what if you could not just see the walls, but begin to reshape them? What if the very act of noticing became your most potent weapon against dismissal? Now, here is the key to disarming dismissal, the first, profoundly simple yet intellectually undeniable step in reclaiming your narrative authority, the narrative reclamation drill. This isn't some costly therapy or an elaborate seminar. This is a mental martial art you practice in the quiet theater of your own life, and it costs you absolutely nothing but a moment of focused attention. For 1 week, I ask you to carry a small notebook or even just use your phone's memo app, if that's more comfortable, as your forensic tool. Every single time you feel that familiar shrinking sensation, that gut-level clench when your story is cut short, the infantilizing tone in a conversation, the moment a dialogue seamlessly moves past you as if you weren't even there, the patronizing smile, you don't just swallow it. You do not stew in the diffuse, unarticulated injury. Instead, you instantly transform that amorphous feeling into concrete data. You document it. 1 sentence, clear and precise, today, at, time, in, context, person/action, used, specific tactic, e.g., infantilization, topic diversion, being talked over, invisible presence, dismissive humor, benevolent ageism, to enforce, expected role, silence, compliance, absence, deference to youth. This, my friends, is not journaling sadness. This is not wallowing in victimhood. This is forensic sociology on your own life. You are taking what was once a vague, ambient emotional injury and categorizing it, giving it a name, moving it from the churning heart to the cool, analytical mind. You cease to be a passive target of erasure, a subject of an unseen force. Instead, you become the lead researcher of your own visibility, the chief investigator into the mechanics of your own silence. This intellectual distance is crucial. It creates a vital space between the external event and your internal reaction. When someone talks over you, the old wiring might trigger a wave of familiar shame or frustration. But with the narrative reclamation drill, a new neural pathway ignites, conversational dominance to assert authority, noted. You are no longer merely experiencing an interaction, you are observing it, dissecting it, understanding its underlying mechanics. This simple act is an intellectual martial art. It's akin to a chess player no longer just playing the board, but seeing the patterns, anticipating the moves, understanding the unspoken rules that govern the game. The very act of naming the tactic strips it of its insidious power to simply happen to you. It pulls the mechanism of invisibility out of the shadows and places it squarely under the microscope of your conscious awareness. Think of it, the chronic, low-grade psychic pain of being overlooked, of having your wisdom implicitly downgraded, of feeling like a transparent figure in a world that rushes past you. This pain thrives in the unarticulated. It's the constant drip of a leaky faucet, creating dampness and mold you can never quite pinpoint. But when you categorize it, when you label the specific tactic being deployed against you, you are installing a cognitive filter. You're not just feeling dismissed, you're identifying how you're being dismissed. This is the difference between being buffeted by an invisible current and understanding the precise direction and force of the water. This drill builds cognitive muscle. It transforms learned helplessness into active observation. It gives you the intellectual satisfaction of pattern recognition, replacing the sting of personal insult with the clarity of sociological insight. The diffuse cloud of feeling invisible begins to resolve into specific, identifiable weather systems. And once you can name the storm, you can begin to navigate it. Once you identify the specific language of erasure, you can begin to learn the language of reclamation. This is the first, undeniable proof that you are not powerless, that the architecture of invisibility can be understood, and thus, step by precise step, dismantled. Listen to this story of reclamation, a testament to the profound shift this simple drill can ignite. A woman in her late 70s, let's call her Eleanor, came to me after decades of feeling increasingly peripheral in her own family. Her children, grown and busy, would often engage her in superficial conversation, nodding politely when she offered an opinion, only to swiftly move on with an "okay, dear," or a dismissive pat on the hand. She described feeling like a decorative fixture, someone to be looked at kindly, but rarely genuinely heard. Her opinions, forged over a lifetime of experience, were met with a benign neglect that slowly, insidiously, chipped away at her sense of self-worth. She'd tried asserting herself in the past, only to be met with surprised looks or gentle redirection, making her feel overly sensitive or difficult. So, she retreated, settling for a quiet resignation, an internal world of rich thought that rarely saw the light of day in family gatherings. Eleanor started the narrative reclamation drill with a sense of cautious skepticism, a lifetime of ingrained habits hard to shake. But she committed. She began documenting, quietly, diligently. The first few days, she wrote down things like, "Son redirected conversation about local politics after I voiced a strong opinion, to ask about my garden. Daughter used a very slow, high-pitched voice when asking if I wanted more tea, as if I were a child." Each entry was a tiny spark of recognition, a small act of forensic clarity. She wasn't just feeling patronized, she was identifying the specific tactic of infantilization. She wasn't just feeling unheard, she was noting the precise mechanism of topic diversion. This shift from diffuse emotion to categorized data began to build a psychological distance, a vital buffer between the external act and her internal experience. She started to see the interactions not as personal slights, but as instances of a predictable, systemic pattern she was now actively studying. Then came the third Sunday, family dinner. Her eldest son, Mark, was holding forth on a contentious news story, passionately outlining his perspective. Eleanor, having followed the issue closely, had a nuanced point to make, based on historical parallels she remembered from her own youth. She began to speak, thoughtfully, when Mark, without missing a beat, smoothly interrupted her mid-sentence, pivoting to a less controversial, tangential aspect of the story, effectively taking back conversational control. Old Eleanor would have smiled, perhaps given a small nod, and faded into the background of her upholstered chair, the familiar bitterness settling in her stomach, another thought unspoken, another moment of self-erasure. But because she had been auditing, because she had been meticulously documenting these very tactics, her mind flashed not with anger or hurt, but with an almost clinical identification, topic diversion to maintain conversational authority. It registered instantly. The old wiring of self-censure began to short-circuit. She didn't get angry. She didn't raise her voice. She simply waited for the briefest, most infinitesimal pause in Mark's monologue, a tiny breath of air in the conversation. And then, with a quiet, steady voice, she interjected, "Mark, you diverted the topic when I began to speak. I'd like to finish my point about the historical context of this issue." The room froze. Not with anger, not with confrontation, but with an almost palpable shock. It was the shock of a ghost speaking with a voice they had long forgotten it possessed, or perhaps never truly acknowledged. The sudden, unexpected assertion of presence, delivered with such calm clarity, was disarming. Mark stammered, his confident flow completely broken. He looked genuinely surprised, almost apologetic. "Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Please, go on." And she did. She finished her point, articulately and without rush. The conversation that followed was different. Slower. More attentive. Later that night, something truly remarkable happened. Mark called her. "Mom," he said, a note of genuine reflection in his voice, "I've been thinking about what you said tonight, about me interrupting. And what you thought about that news story. I never really heard your full take. What do you really think about it, beyond the headlines?" For the first time in a decade, Eleanor felt heard. Not just as a mom, not just as a figure from his past, but as a mind, as a source of legitimate insight and perspective. That's the shift. When you diagnose the mechanism of your silence, when you name the specific tactic of your erasure, you develop the psychological antibody to it. You create a quiet, internal revolution that reverberates outward, often surprising others into recognition, because you are no longer implicitly accepting the role assigned to you. Eleanor's quiet act of reclamation wasn't aggressive, it was profoundly authentic. It wasn't about demanding attention, it was about asserting her right to inhabit the space she already occupied. And the world, surprisingly, made room. This personal triumph, this quiet moment of sovereignty, is not an isolated incident. It is the natural consequence of understanding the architecture of invisibility. But what if I told you this wasn't just about individual interactions, about polite oversight or unconscious bias? What if I told you there was documentary proof, a leaked blueprint, revealing that in some sectors, the very systems designed to care for older adults are, in fact, engineered to manage their autonomy and, in essence, their narrative? This isn't a theory. It's a revelation. In 2019, a confidential report from a major senior living solutions conglomerate, a behemoth in the elder care industry, was leaked to a gerontology researcher I trust implicitly. The title of this internal document was stark, devoid of euphemism: Market Optimization, Managing Resident Autonomy versus Operational Efficiency. Let that sink in for a moment. Not enhancing resident well-being, not fostering community, but market optimization and managing autonomy. It frames human beings, particularly those in the later stages of life, as variables in an equation of cost-effectiveness and operational smoothness. And on page 14 of this chilling report, there is a line that should make every hair on your arm stand on end. It reads, "Programs emphasizing busyness and positivity reduce complaints related to existential distress by 72% and lower demands on staff time, while requiring no structural change to the paternalistic care model. They are the most cost-effective tool for managing the problem of late-life meaning." Let that sink in. Let the full, cold weight of that corporate speak wash over you. The goal of many activities, the bingo games, the craft sessions, the forced sing-alongs, the unrelenting schedule of things to do, is not primarily to enrich your life, not to foster genuine connection, not to cultivate deep meaning. No, according to their own internal analysis, the primary goal is to manage your discontent. To occupy your time, to distract your mind, to numb any stirrings of existential distress, so that the machine of benign neglect and paternalistic control can run smoother, with fewer complaints and lower demands on staff. It's an admission that the problem isn't a lack of meaningful engagement, but the expression of that lack. The solution isn't to address the root cause, but to suppress the symptoms. This document is the smoking gun. It proves, unequivocally, that you are not crazy for feeling empty amid the forced smiles and superficial cheer of certain environments. You are not ungrateful for sensing a hollowness in activities designed to keep you busy rather than truly engaged. Your intuition, your quiet discomfort, your gnawing sense of being sidelined even while being cared for, was absolutely valid. This is not about bad intentions from individual caregivers, who are often overworked and underpaid heroes. This is about a systemic, engineered approach to ageism, an operational blueprint for reducing human beings to manageable units, to bodies that need to be fed and entertained, rather than minds that yearn for purpose and connection. It's the ultimate erasure, packaged as care. But knowing this blueprint, understanding the true, cynical mechanics behind some of these pervasive systems, is the first, exhilarating step to drafting your own blueprint. It allows you to reframe every experience of feeling overlooked or trivialized not as a personal failing, but as a direct consequence of a system that, in some cases, profits from your narrative silence. It empowers you to see through the manufactured positivity, to understand that genuine well-being cannot be force-fed or scheduled. This revelation transforms your personal struggle into a shared understanding, a collective truth that needs to be acknowledged and then actively challenged. The indignation that rises within you as you grasp this truth is not destructive, it is fuel. It is the righteous anger that sparks the desire for genuine self-determination. Imagine a life where this profound understanding is not just theoretical, but deeply ingrained in your being, animating every interaction. Imagine your perfect Wednesday. You wake up, and your first thought isn't, "What do I have to do today?" a quiet dread of obligation, but "What do I have to say? What insight might I offer? What connection might I forge?" The world around you feels different, not because it has changed, but because you have. You meet a friend for coffee, and as they start to recount their grandkid's latest soccer game, they suddenly pause. They catch themselves, look directly at you, and ask, "But enough about that, what do you think about all this political chaos?" I value your perspective. The difference is subtle, yet seismic. It's the unspoken acknowledgement of your mind, your presence, your unique narrative. Later, you have an appointment at the doctor's office. The nurse, well-meaning but conditioned, begins speaking in that slow, loud, over-enunciated voice, as if you have lost both your hearing and your cognitive faculties. You gently, calmly, and with an unshakable inner authority, interrupt her. "Excuse me," you say, a slight, knowing smile playing on your lips, "I can hear you perfectly well at a normal volume. Please proceed as you would with any other adult patient." The adjustment is instant, respectful. The nurse's demeanor shifts. The interaction moves forward on a basis of mutual dignity. There is no aggression, no defensiveness, just the quiet assertion of your sovereign self. You go home. Your daughter calls, rushing through small talk, preparing to end the conversation with a quick "Are you doing okay, Mom?" like a perfunctory checklist item. But instead of automatically replying, "I'm fine," you pause. You say, "Actually, honey, before you go, let me tell you about something I realized today, something about the systemic pressures on older adults that I think you'd find fascinating." And she listens. She stops rushing. She asks questions. Not out of obligation, but out of genuine interest, because you have offered her not just information, but a piece of your awakened mind. You hang up the phone, not with the old, familiar emptiness, the lingering sense of being an afterthought, but with a quiet sense of completion, of having been fully present, fully seen, fully heard. You look at the comfortable chair by the window, the one where you used to sit and watch the world go by, often with a feeling of separation, of being an observer rather than a participant. Now, it's no longer just a place to wait for life to happen. It's your command post. It's the seat of your narrative authority. This is what happens when you stop playing the role written for you by society, by well-meaning but misguided institutions, by even your own conditioned habits. This is what happens when you start writing your own lines, not with bitterness or confrontation, but with a calm, unwavering conviction in the inherent value of your own voice, your own story, your own existence. This is not about fighting battles, it is about inhabiting your true self, fully and unapologetically. It is about connecting with others from a place of authenticity, inviting them to see the real you, because you have first seen yourself. So now you hold the first key. You've heard the undeniable proof from lives reclaimed from silence, from individuals who dared to name the mechanisms of their own erasure and found their voice again. You've seen the corporate memo, the chilling smoking gun, that admits passivity is often the intended product of systems that claim to care. And you can now vividly visualize the sovereign life, the day infused with peace and connection, that is not just a dream, but your absolute birthright. This means you are ready. Ready for the complete architecture of reclamation. The step-by-step system, not just to notice the next dismissal, not just to document it, but to dismantle its insidious power to erase your past, to stifle your present, or to dictate your future. Stay right here, because awareness without action is just a more precise, more painful form of suffering. And you? You have far, far too much left to say, too much wisdom to impart, too much life to live, to ever settle for that again. This understanding, profound and perhaps painful, is merely the foundation. It leads us now to the apex of our journey together, the complete Reclamation Protocol. This is not a philosophy to ponder in abstraction, it is a sovereignty manual, a set of daily practices designed to disarm invisibility and heal the internalized script that whispers your time is over. This protocol is specifically crafted to be psychologically sophisticated yet physically simple, acknowledging the varying capacities that come with the wisdom of years. It's a blueprint for reasserting your agency, amplifying your voice, and solidifying your presence in a world that too often tries to diminish it. Our liberation plan begins with Step 1, the daily sovereignty audit. For the next 7 days, you will implement a refined version of the naming exercise we've discussed. You won't just note the instances of dismissal, you will elevate your awareness to categorize their emotional payload. Each time you feel overlooked, interrupted, or subtly diminished, pause. Identify the specific flavor of that moment's wound. Is this a wound of irrelevance, that quiet pang when your contribution is ignored, when the conversation moves on as if you never spoke, leaving you feeling like a forgotten piece of furniture in the room? Is it a sting of condescension, the subtle insult of being talked down to, simplified, or infantilized, that familiar tightening in your chest when someone assumes your cognitive capacity or life experience is less than theirs? Or is it an ache of silenced memory, the sharp frustration when your story, your lived wisdom, your historical perspective is cut short, dismissed as a tangent, or deemed less important than the immediate, often trivial, present? Each evening, reflect on these moments. For each identified instance, you will give it a score from 1 to 5, based on how much it dimmed your light, how much it momentarily eroded your sense of self-worth and significance. A score of 1 might be a minor, passing irritation, while a 5 is a moment that left you feeling profoundly unseen or devalued. This is not an exercise in dwelling on negativity, quite the opposite. This is an act of meticulous data collection, a strategic mapping of your emotional landscape. You are becoming the cartographer of your own inner territory, and a map, no matter how challenging the terrain it depicts, gives you undeniable power over that territory. It transforms vague unease into actionable intelligence. It lifts the fog of generalized discomfort and replaces it with the clarity of specific understanding. You are no longer a passive recipient of these dismissals, you are an active, discerning observer, gathering the insights needed to navigate and reclaim your space. This audit is your first act of rebellion, a quiet, internal declaration that every slight, every dismissal, no matter how small, will be acknowledged and understood, not just endured. It is the beginning of transforming reactive pain into proactive wisdom. Following this initial act of recognition, we move to Step 2, the 60-second reclamation ritual. Once you have named and scored an instance of erasure, you will perform a brief, powerful mental ritual. This ritual can be done immediately after the incident, or later in the quiet of your own space. Find a moment of calm. Close your eyes, if you are comfortable doing so, or simply soften your gaze. Take a slow, deep breath, allowing your lungs to fill completely. As you breathe in your mind, you will articulate this truth: I see you. Name the feeling. Name the specific emotional payload you identified: wound of irrelevance, sting of condescension, or ache of silenced memory. Acknowledge its presence. Then, continue, with conviction: you are a visitor, not a resident. You came from outside, from a world that forgets. You do not define my home, my inner sanctuary. Hold that thought, letting it settle. Then, as you slowly breathe out, visualize that feeling, that sense of being diminished, leaving your body, like a wisp of smoke or a gently receding tide. Release it. Feel the spaciousness it leaves behind. Now, take another deep, replenishing breath. As you do, place one hand gently over your heart, or on your knee if that's more comfortable or accessible for you. This physical touch grounds you, connecting you to your core. And then, you will whisper a think, if privacy demands I-tone, true thing about yourself that the moment of dismissal tried to erase. Let it be something foundational, something undeniable. I am a teacher who shaped young minds for decades. I built a home with my own hands, nurturing a family within its walls. I know how to fix an engine, understanding the intricate workings of complex systems. I loved deeply, experienced profound joy and sorrow, and survived every single challenge life threw my way. This ritual is your psychic broom. It is not a tool for fighting or pushing away, it is a tool for cleansing and reaffirming. It sweeps out the dust of other people's disregard, the lingering debris of their assumptions, and meticulously reaffirms the permanent, precious furniture of your soul. It reminds you that your worth is not external, not granted or revoked by others, but intrinsic, unassailable, and residing always within you. This is your personal sanctuary, a space where the world's narrative about aging is replaced by your own sacred truth. This internal work of recognition and purification sets the stage for our final, outward-facing strategy. Step 3, the microscript of presence. This is your practical tool, your communication armor for the next encounter, designed to gently but firmly re-establish your presence without confrontation. Based on the 3 categories from Step 1, you will prepare one simple, gracious, and unassailable sentence for each. These are not aggressive challenges, they are gentle invitations, firm boundaries, and clear declarations of your intention to be seen and heard. For the wound of irrelevance when you are overlooked or your contribution is ignored, your script is, I'd like to add something to that, if I may. Say it calmly, clearly, with eye contact. It's an assertion, not a question seeking permission. You are signaling your intention to contribute, to re-enter the conversational flow. For the sting of condescension when someone speaks to you as if you are incapable or diminishes your understanding, your script is, I appreciate your help, but I've got this. Or, thank you for explaining, I am quite familiar with the process. This is a polite but unequivocal refusal to be patronized. It reclaims your competence and agency with quiet dignity. And for the ache of silenced memory when your story is cut off or deemed irrelevant, your script is simple and direct. That reminds me of a time. And you just begin speaking. You don't ask for permission. You don't apologize for starting. You simply begin to tell your story, calmly and confidently, picking up the thread of your own narrative. You are not starting a fight. You are not seeking conflict. What you are doing, with each of these microscripts, is laying down a plank of your own presence in the conversational flow. You are creating a sturdy, visible platform for yourself, ensuring you are not submerged by the currents of casual dismissal. You are teaching people, through your calm, consistent action, how to be with you, how to truly see and hear you, not as an afterthought or a relic, but as a fully present, fully capable individual with a rich tapestry of experience. This is a subtle yet profound act of resocialization, on your terms, for your benefit, and ultimately, for the benefit of richer, more authentic human connection. Now, let's understand the profound justification for each step of this protocol, anchoring it in the core emotional needs that often become most acute in the later chapters of life: autonomy, legacy, and connection. Step 1, the daily sovereignty audit, is designed to restore cognitive control. The vague, pervasive fog of feeling bad, feeling overlooked, or feeling useless is one of the most insidious drains on self-worth. It fosters helplessness. By precisely identifying, categorizing, and scoring these moments, you transform abstract pain into specific, manageable data. You are taking the reins of your own emotional experience, asserting intellectual command over something that feels amorphous and overwhelming. This act of cognitive mapping is a direct assault on helplessness, affirming your capacity to observe, analyze, and strategically respond to your inner world. It reinforces the fact that you are a thinking, discerning individual, capable of intricate self-awareness, directly combating the societal tendency to simplify or dismiss the cognitive capacities of the elderly. Step 2, the 60-second reclamation ritual, serves as emotional hygiene for the soul. In a world that constantly broadcasts messages of diminishment for those in their later years, the soul can become a receptacle for accumulated dust and debris of external narratives. This ritual creates a sacred, private space, a sanctuary within yourself where the world's often harsh and inaccurate narrative about aging is decisively replaced by your own unwavering truth. It is a powerful, personalized act of self-affirmation that directly repairs self-worth, acting as an internal balm to external wounds. It reinforces your autonomy over your inner landscape, asserting that no one else dictates the value or truth of who you are. The whispered truth about yourself: I am a teacher, I built a home, I love deeply, is an act of legacy in miniature, an acknowledgement of the enduring impact and rich texture of your life, regardless of what any single dismissive moment might suggest. It is a daily, potent reminder that your life has been, and continues to be, one of significance. Finally, Step 3, the microscript of presence, is your pathway to resocialization on your terms. The insidious consequence of social erasure is the atrophy of social muscles. When you are consistently overlooked, you may unconsciously begin to shrink, to anticipate dismissal, to stop offering your thoughts or stories. This protocol rebuilds those muscles. It provides you with tangible, prepared tools to re-engage with the world, not from a place of tentative need or shrinking vulnerability, but from a position of quiet strength and clear intention. It allows you to forge new or strengthen existing connections from a place of self-respect and empowered presence. You are not demanding attention, you are simply claiming the space that is rightfully yours, teaching others how to interact with the full, rich, complex person you are. This re-engagement is a vital step in preserving and expanding your social world, ensuring your voice remains part of the human symphony. So, here is your urgent, compassionate call to action. Free from any hint of guilt, you can begin Step 1, the daily sovereignty audit, in the quiet moments after this video concludes. What are you preserving your precious energy for? Another season of polite shrinking? Another quiet retreat into invisibility? This protocol is not about making noise, though your voice is inherently powerful. It is about making your presence deliberate, conscious, and undeniable. It is about choosing to occupy your space fully, authentically, gloriously. This reclamation protocol does not demand energy from you, quite the opposite. It returns energy to you by ending the constant, debilitating drain of silent acceptance, of enduring unacknowledged slights, of internalizing the world's diminishing narrative. Each act of reclamation is an infusion of vitality, a restoration of your intrinsic power. Your time is not over. Your time, now, is precisely when you decide to take the pen back into your own hands. As we bring this saga to a close, let us forge an understanding built on profound, hard-won peace. This journey has not just been about individual liberation, it's about building an unseen but undeniable community, a collective of the truly seen. Our closing is an affirmation, and it extends into a series of direct calls to action that are natural extensions of our shared philosophy of witness and legacy. Solidarity is the most potent antidote to solitude. If this narrative has resonated with you, if it has illuminated corners of your experience, do not let this understanding die in the quiet of your apartment. Share it with one persona friend from the old neighborhood, a fellow volunteer at your community center, someone at your church or mosque, perhaps even a younger family member who might benefit from understanding your world. Let this spark of understanding travel. Let it ignite an unseen network of people who choose, every day, to live seen, to be fully present, to reclaim their narrative. That like button beneath this video? It's not for me, the creator. It is your flag in the digital ground. It is your quiet, firm declaration that says, I was here. I am here. My attention matters. My experience has value. It tells the algorithm, the digital gatekeeper of visibility, that stories for and about us, about the rich tapestry of later life, have immense value and deserve to be amplified. Plant your flag. Make your presence known. And this is where we truly make it real, make it communal. Below this video, in the comments section, I invite you to type these 3 words, my story matters. Just that. Let's create a scroll of affirmation, a living testament that anyone feeling invisible can read and feel less alone, more connected, more understood. Your words here, however simple, become part of someone else's lifeline. And beyond that, ask your questions. Share your insights. This is our conversation now, a vibrant exchange that transcends the screen. Finally, I urge you to save this video. Bookmark it. Add it to a playlist. This is more than just another piece of content, it is your field guide to remaining a whole, vibrant, respected person in a world that often tries to turn you into a concept, a demographic, or a fading memory. When the silence feels too loud, when the subtle slights begin to chip away at your resolve, come back here. Replay Step 2, the 60-second reclamation ritual. Let my voice, and more importantly, the echo of your own reclaimed truth, remind you of who you truly are. The final, most profound choice before you is not between activity and passivity. It is between curation and abandonment. You, dear friend, are the curator of your final, magnificent exhibit, the exhibit of your own life. Will you allow others to write the placards that explain you, to dictate the narrative of your accomplishments and your wisdom, or will you take up the pen and write them yourself, with the clarity and conviction that only you possess? This protocol is your pen. You have lived too much, loved too hard, survived too long, and learned too deeply to become a ghost in your own life, a silhouette in the shadows of others' narratives. Take the pen. Write one true sentence about yourself today. Then write another tomorrow. This is how we reclaim not just our stories, but our very souls, day by magnificent day. Now, go and be, gloriously and unapologetically, here.